Well, I don't know about you, Jared, whether you're planning to travel, but there is definitely a holiday headache in the air. The spread of COVID is throwing a wrench into many holiday plans. And here with advice on how to handle any COVID curveballs that come at you is Brian Kelly, the Points Guy founder and CEO. Brian, thanks so much for being here. It's crunch time for you, busy time of the year. I want to ask you first, would you plan to travel with this threat of Omicron and the spreading virus caseload that we're seeing? And then what sort of advice do you have for people who, let's say, have locked in a trip or planning to travel now are having second thoughts because of lockdowns or because of cancellations at some point along their trip?
Yeah, I would certainly think twice. And before you go anywhere, I would make sure you understand what it's going to be like in that destination. I know a lot of people who wanted to do Christmas markets in Europe this year, but as we're seeing in the Netherlands and other countries kind of closing down, putting curfews in, it might make sense to sit this one out if you don't have any plans now. That's certainly what I'm planning to do. But, lots of people are still traveling. We're seeing over 2 million TSA passengers a day. It's going to be a busy travel season, but as always, you got to be prepared and understand what it's like where you're going.
And let me ask you about how the travel industry is responding to the latest demands here. And I'll give a personal example. This is before Omicron. I traveled to Canada, so it was international from the US. I found it very difficult to get the test on the way back, but also it wasn't a breeze on the way into the company. I had to get a PCR test, and that took 3 days, almost missed the window. Is the travel industry still forgiving the COVID troubles that the customers are having in terms of rebates, rewards, refunds, et cetera? And what are some of the better players in the space?
Yeah, so you hit the nail on the head. I mean, testing right now is the biggest issue causing people to cancel trips. Over the pandemic, I've been able to get PCR tests in New York City pretty easily. There was a 3-day wait this week to get a test. So lots of panic there. I highly recommend there are Binax Now tests that you can bring with you when you travel. You now need to have a rapid antigen test within a day before your flight home, which is another curveball for travelers. But there are approved tests that the U.S. will allow you to use. You can do them from your hotel room, and they're proctored. Just make sure you get the proctored version. As far as the travel industry, they are being flexible. However, the devil's in the details. Over the last year, the airlines kind of waived change fees, but earlier this year, they kind of started to sneak in, certain airlines won't let you change basic economy tickets, which is what a lot of people buy, the cheapest ticket. So in terms of who's done it best, I do think Delta has been leading the way with flexibility, but most of the major airlines now will let you change your travel, if you need to. However, you're not going to get a refund unless the airline cancels your flight.
And then, as you say, there are a lot of people that are still traveling despite this threat of COVID that we're seeing rising cases, TSA screening more than 2 million people. And then STR also coming out with their latest research that shows occupancy is up at hotels. In fact, New York City occupancy is at 81.5% for the week ending December 11th. That's the highest of the pandemic era. It's still 13% lower than before the pandemic, but people are still traveling. I wonder what makes the most sense. Should they be using points to travel? Should they be paying with cash? Should they be paying with credit card? What's the best way to protect yourself in this sort of situation?
Well, it's kind of funny because points, historically have been a pain to use. Airlines will charge you fees if you change your tickets. But one of the good things that came out of the pandemic is most airlines will now let you change and get all your points back. So it's actually more flexible to use your points for a ticket than it is to buy it with cash. We even at the Points Guy, we have a cash, should you use cash or points calculator that we just launched to help people. But my number one tip is use those points. So many people have miles, racking up over the pandemic. Use them because, save that cold hard cash and it gives you that extra flexibility. So don't hoard points and miles if there's one thing you hear from me today.
And when do you see, well, I'm not going to ask you to predict when the current variant is going to die down, but how do you see the reaction by the travel companies to when things finally do calm down from this latest surge that we're seeing? Are we going to get back to a new normal eventually, and how long will that take?
Absolutely. I mean, I think the airlines are really gearing up for a robust summer 2022. United announced some really cool new routes, nonstop flights to the Azores and to Palma de Mallorca. For the first time ever, we're seeing a nonstop flight. So there's been bulking up of the summer route. So I think it's going to be a cold winter in terms of, still people traveling. But I think we'll see the real boom next summer when hopefully there are even those over-the-counter medicines that you can have, if and when you do get COVID traveling. So I think, there's definitely fatigue with consumers and travelers now. People are ready to travel longer because they're now many people are able to work, while they travel. So I do think the industry, a lot of the airlines are even profitable now. Delta just posted a profit. So this winter might be a little bit tough, but I think summer 2022 is going to be a gangbuster summer for the industry.
And then want to turn really quickly your attention to, a lot of people come to your website for useful tips and information, but then there's also the app. How does that differ, if it does differ from the website?
Yes. So we just launched if you search for the Points Guy in the App Store, we now track all your miles and points, and we'll actually give consumers their net worth in points because people actually have a lot more in value than they realize. So, while the pointsguy.com is great for tips and content, we now have tools that will actually help you not only see how many points you have, but also where you can go with those points and how to use them and a bunch of other tools, making sure you're spending, we'll actually crunch what you spend your money on and say, hey, if you would have used this credit card, you would have gotten a lot more in value. So the app is all about giving people the tools they need and the content as well.
Okay, well, I'm sitting on 150,000 American airline points and nowhere to go. No time to use it in the near future. We will leave it there. Brian Kelly, the Points Guy founder and CEO. Thanks for coming on today and happy holidays to you.